Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Wild and the Whites podcast. All right, well, welcome back to Wild and the Whites.
Yeah.
We are home from Huntstock, and we're doing our very first episode in the new studio.
Ooh, yes.
So
fancy.
And to kick off this new studio, we have a very special guest with us, Mike Lafleur.
How you doing? My name's Mike Lafleur. I'm a licensed leash dog tracker here in the state of New Hampshire and Maine.
Yeah.
I'm also a registered hunting guide.
Nice.
Been hunting since I was 15. Just really enjoying the outdoors.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
we're here. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about your dog, Freddy, and what importance he has in hunting community and everything like that. So,
And what you've had to do with him, and
Yeah.
I know you had Ted before, like what's gone on and how you train, and we'll go through all these different questions. And
yeah.
Tyler?
So, Mike, what got you into wanting to do this dog tracking versus, because you've been hunting a long time, what made you transition into dog tracking?
I have. So, several years, actually a long time ago now, I got my guide's license. I started guiding bear hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this group from New Jersey that came up, 3 guys. And the first night they all shot bear. 3 bears.
Awesome.
Had 3
Nice.
bears down. Yeah, so I thought it was nice. It was pretty cool. They were pumped. Trouble is we didn't recover all 3 of them.
Okay.
They aimed on the bear like they were shooting a deer. All forward injuries, lack of blood. I was distraught. We tracked all night long and then into the next day. And when I couldn't recover not one of them, I said there's got to be something different. I pride myself on good eye tracking and tracking my own animals. And then when I couldn't find any of these bears, it really hit me. So I looked into leash dog tracking. At that time, that was 2008. They had John Jenney and United Blood Trackers actually hosted a workshop over in Belknap. And I really looked into that, and I ended up getting the dog through the Jenneys. And that was 2010. That's when I got Ted. And just started leash tracking then, and I've never looked back. I've got Freddy now. Ted lasted for 10 years. Unfortunately, we had to put him down. He had leukemia. I was hoping to get, another 12, 13 years out of him. At 10, we ended up putting him down. And then I just got Freddy through the same breeder, same bloodline, which was a miracle.
Breeder or the guy you got him from at Huntstock. Was he there, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yep. Yeah. So it's Freddy's awesome. He just turned 3 in April. We've got a lot of tracks under his collar already. Yeah.
Nice. So, what is the process for actually training a dog like that? Like, how long does it... You get Freddy, right? So how old is Freddy now?
So he just turned 3 in April.
Yeah.
The process, so as a breeder, Yolanta Jenney, she did a lot of imprinting as puppies, all the way up to 7 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
Bloodlines on cardboard, socialization, deer hoofs, bear hides, to introduce these dogs. And it's pretty much in their blood. That's what they're bred for.
Okay.
The wire hair dachshund, and especially this particular bloodline. So not so much a plug and play, but they're wired for it.
Wow.
That's what they're built for.
So
they're bred for.
That's part of one of my other questions was, is there special breeds that are meant for doing this?
Some are better than others, on certain things.
Yep.
So not one particular breed is, the best. There's a lot of good dogs out there, a lot of good leash dog trackers throughout the state. We're fortunate in the state that we have, the trackers that we do. Mm-hmm. Some breeds are better than others on certain things. So Freddy is a footstep tracker. So he actually tracks hoof step to hoof step because of that individual gland, that wound scent. Whereas, a lab or a bird dog, would kind of sweep back and forth, to pick up that scent, where that the dachshund, the wire-hair dachshund, is looking at each hoof step. Tight to the line is what we call it. And I love that because I can see sign really good. At least I think I can. And it just gives confirmation is what it does. The dog can figure out whether it's viable or not. And in some cases, the dog can tell us that it's not a viable hit because of the wound scent is basically what's determining that.
Yep. So at what point do you know that the dog is ready to go out there into the field, answer calls, go on tracks, everything like that?
Yeah, so with him, he was tracking when he was 5 months old.
Wow.
That first September I had him on
Wow.
track. I did a lot of training, up to that point. So when I got him at 8 weeks, every day, not every day, but every other day or so, I would lay, a practice line, with liver blood, make it 100 yards. And then the next day I'd make it 100 yards, but I'd put a 90-degree turn in it. The next day I'd make it 200 yards. And then I'd do one on a 200 again. And then I would do 200 with another 90. And then just progressively made it harder for him. Until I really started doing some backtracks and really messed with his mind, but only changed one thing at a time. And then if he would struggle with something, I'd revert back to a little bit easier, and then change it up again. And it takes a while. The more you do with the dog, the better he gets. It's like bird, any bird dog. The more you work them, and you build a bond with the dog, and that's huge. So him and I are as tight can be. It's he wants to work for me, and I want to do everything to make him successful. So yeah, he was on first tracks. A friend of mine shot a bear off his bait. That was September 1st, and he called me up. Hey, you want to track a bear? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in. And that was, he basically released the arrow. He heard a death moan, so he knew the bear was dead. So it was a known without going over to it, which is phenomenal because there was no human scent. It was just a bear. Yeah, exactly. Nothing stopping him to distract him for anything else. And we let Freddy work that track. Actually, my friend recorded it. It was awesome. And he nailed it. He did awesome. And it was maybe, just under 100 yards. But it proved that he could do it, and that bear had a lot of wound scent, and there was blood along the way. 2 days later, I did another bear track. I said, well, he did this one so well, let me do another one. And it was up by the Lakes region, and didn't even know if that bear was hit or, how bad that bear was hit, in a super thick cutoff. And we ended up recovering that bear, and it just boosted my confidence.
That's
that
awesome.
He's got it.
Yeah.
He's figured it out.
It's addicting. It's when you get to that and you can, figure out your dog's figured it out, and he's not quite figured it out 100%. And I don't think you'll ever be 100%, but he's pretty damn good. Yeah.
And he's always getting better. It sounds like
he is. And it's I'm picking up more on reading him. And understanding what he's trying to tell me.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you. You mentioned about building a bond with your dog. I was going to say you must learn read his language, like how he acts, what he's doing, if he's interested, not interested. Like, is that sort of something that you can cue in on now? You know what he's doing or what he's not.
Correct. Yeah. And a big understanding. So I tell everybody I think he's going to be better than Ted. Ted, I had 10 years with him, and he was phenomenal. And even at 3, I'm thinking he's going to be as good, if not better, than Ted.
Wow.
Because I've got 10 years of experience to help him along.
Right. So you're like a better handler now. You're better than where you were with Ted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So going on 14 years of experience. Now I wish some of these tracks I had Ted, because I think Ted would have pulled it off had I had the little bit of help on some instances that I could have helped them. So you just build a better team, the more experience you get. Yeah, for certain.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I've heard you talk about tracking bears with Freddy. What other animals can you track? Or is it just by their wound scent, or?
Yeah, so in the state of New Hampshire, we can track deer, bear, and moose. And we track several bear a season, and he's done very well with that. obviously the deer, he's got that, no problem. Moose, we actually travel up to Maine. I've got very little opportunities in New Hampshire because of the moose. You know, they're just not here. So the one or two, and typically they're further up north. You know, I just don't get those calls. So and I have tracked moose with Ted, and no problem switching from, you know, a deer to a moose. Now a moose doesn't have individual gland scent like a deer does. Same with a bear. A bear doesn't have individual gland scent. They have pad scent, and same with a moose, being an ungulate, but there's no particular fingerprint. Whereas a deer actually has a fingerprint with that individual gland. So yeah, he can track deer, bear, moose, no problem. I've gotten a few calls to track turkey, but unfortunately, it's not. It's not a big game animal. Yeah, it's. They do it in Maine, which is they can actually track. So archery hits where the turkey may take off and on the ground. You know, obviously flying would be hard to follow that wound scent. But if the turkey actually stays on the ground,
you have Tyler's interest right now, big time.
They're actually on the ground, and you know, they can go quite a stretch.
It's funny.
You know, it basically they're following that wound scent is the biggest thing. The wound scent, the adrenaline, the cortisol, all these things that, you know, an animal puts off when it's wounded. You know, think about coyotes and foxes, predators. They follow that wound scent. They don't necessarily follow the blood. They're following that wound scent. And that's very hard to duplicate when you're training a dog, you know. So the samples that I take, and depending on the track, I'll keep samples off those particular animals.
Sure.
You know, the hunter will say, "Hey, what can I give you? You know, a cat?" And I'm like, "No, I want some blood. I want some of that blood. I want a hoof. You know, I want this to train, you know, future dogs. You know." Or during the summer, I'll run a line for Freddy, and I want to use that blood that has that chemical composition of a wounded animal, not just any deer that, you know, like a roadkill deer. I'm not saying that won't work, but there's more chemical, adrenaline and stuff, composition in that wounded deer than, you know, one that wasn't.
One that was smacked by a car and died like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there is a good science behind it, you know, when you really get into it, of what the dog does and what the dog's reading, you know.
So you've talked, like, you go to Maine for moose, and obviously you do a lot here in New Hampshire. Do you need like a separate license to do it in different states, or how does that work?
Yeah, so in New Hampshire you pay a fee, $50 license fee.
Is that like annually, or?
Yeah, so every year you pay a $50 license. There's no testing in New Hampshire, so if you wanted to take your dog out and do leash dog tracking, you could pay the $50 license fee, and you could track your own deer.
Yeah, Canada's not that smart.
No.
and New Hampshire's fortunate where we can do that. There's a whole different set of laws that you have to follow when you're tracking, and, you know, when you're doing the leash dog tracking. And then year-end report, that sort of thing. And then, you know, we have to call in the tracks as we do them. So we have to notify Fish and Game when we're going to track.
Yeah, I just saw the changes got posted for this year. Like, you now have, what was it, you have to call certain numbers during certain times of the day and other numbers at night.
Yeah, last year we were able to do it on Operation Game Thief, which was perfect because you could do it right on your phone right as you're leaving the track or as soon as you get back. Now they're giving us 24 hours to report the track, but then certain numbers to call. So most of the tracks, you know, it's a 7 in the morning till 7 at night, you know, office hours while we're tracking, you know, in the evening. And that's a point to make. You know, hunters will call us all hours of the night, you know, and I want the hunters to find their own deer. So typically on an evening hunt, you know, I know early bear season, you know, it could be midnight, 1 in the morning when you decide to call the track and say, okay, we need to have a tracker come in. Well, rather than waiting until, you know, 6, 7 in the morning to try to find a tracker, my phone's always open because I'm probably going to be up anyways. If I'm not at the firehouse, I'm tracking. So call and leave me a message because I'm probably in the woods. And as soon as I get cell service, I can talk and we can make a plan type of thing. That new reporting system is a little bit. They got some bugs to work out, but they're going to figure it out. And we can always contact the local game warden too. And if I'm tracking in urban areas, Litchfield, Bedford, Amherst, I'm calling the police department directly and telling them, hey, I'm a licensed leash dog tracker. You might get a call for somebody in their house and they're seeing a flashlight out in the woods. Yep. That's me. This is the neighborhood I expect to be in. A lot of times it's not uncommon to have a cop car waiting for you at your truck when you get back, and everything's legal. We're not doing anything. Nothing that we're not supposed to. And, we try to knock on doors and get permission. Some of those urban areas are very difficult to do that. So, yeah.
Now, and you can actually, one step further on suspicious activity at night, you can actually discharge your firearm at night legally if need be, correct?
Yeah. So if we can positively identify that that's the animal that we're tracking, we're not just popping shots in the middle of the night. Right. It's certain calibers that we can use. Fishing, we notify Fish and Game that we're going to be doing this. And it's very fortunate in New Hampshire that we can do that. There's a lot of states you can't.
Wow.
A lot of states even out west, for dispatching, they have to use knives or spears. They can't even use a firearm.
So is that you specifically, or the hunter can do it with you?
No, so only the leash dog tracker. Yeah. Okay. So with that license, you're held to a higher standard.
Absolutely.
If we can positively identify it, Onyx is a great tool because a lot of these suburban areas, you still have to be within, be outside of that 300 feet from an occupied dwelling. So we can pull it up on satellite maps and do the distance between make sure we're shooting in the safe distance, safe direction. We've had it several times where, hey, I can't shoot the deer because we're too close to a house. So in that instance, do you come back? Do you wait? Do you try to work on the backside of the deer and bump it a little bit further?
Yep.
We've played all different types of ways to handle different scenarios. And the simple fact is, if you leave the animal that you've just tracked, for a very long distance, you leave that there overnight. Predators are a huge thing. So we try not to leave an animal, where we can't get it that night.
Yep.
Unless it's just physically impossible. It's too lively. And certain shots on animals or wounds make it that you just can't. You don't even put eyes on the animal. That's the. You don't always end up with a recovery. When you track.
But there's at least an answer.
There's an answer. We can put closure to it. Yeah. If we can put eyes on it, then we can track the animal. We can recover it, but we can't hunt with the dog. So there's a point where you have to make that decision of, okay, are we hunting it with the dog or are we actually recovering it? So generally, if you put eyes on that animal and you bump it, I would continue on. If I can put eyes on it again and it's bedded and I bump it up again, I'm going to pursue that. I'm not going to hunt it. I'm going to make a ethical recovery of that animal, because if not, coyote's going to get at it. It might end up in somebody's flower garden, and I've got pictures to prove that.
And I think it's important to note too, so if you shoot an animal and there's no blood, you can still call for a tracker, because you've talked about the wound scent, but can you just go into the importance of that just a little bit more about exactly what Freddy is tracking as he goes along?
Sure. So, like I said, when we train to track, I actually brought one of my training shoes with us. And what we do is we put a deer hoof in the bottom of this.
You want me to hold that in 2 hands?
Yeah. So at the so we end up putting a deer hoof right in here, about 6 inches of the deer hoof, and then you strap it to your feet, and as you walk, it pushes that deer hoof down into the ground. So Freddy's actually tracking that deer hoof in that individual gland. There's a gentleman that makes these, and the design has changed over the years, and he just keeps getting better every year. These are a great tool that we can teach Freddy on what to track. Now, we also train him, on that wounded blood scent, that chemical composition, that real good blood. But he doesn't need the blood. It's you can only do so much in training, but then when you go do the real thing, that dog is going to realize that there's a whole other world of scent out there other than what we're laying down. So that bond that he knows, hey, this is the deer that I want to track. It has wound scent to it. Okay, no, this is, if I follow this, I'm going to get a reward at the end. Where if it's a healthy deer, there's no way I'm going to catch up to it.
Yeah.
So it's important to realize when you train the dog that it'll be a little bit different once you get on the real thing. And in essence, it could be easier because there's that much more. It's because we can't duplicate, exactly the real thing. Which adversely, the dog may not go back to a regular training line after he's had the real thing, or he or she has taken the real track.
Okay.
They realize that this is just, there's nothing here. There's no wound scent.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've got a hoof print. You want me to follow that? Yeah, maybe a drop of blood, but there's none of the other good stuff that goes with it that solidifies that I can, put an end to the story with the deer being right in front of us,
Yeah.
or that animal right in front of us. Wound scent's the big thing.
Sure.
Yep. It's that saying, you got scared, you crapped your pants.
Yeah.
Well, and I say that, I use that as a good example. It's true.
Right.
That's when an animal gets hit, they release all those pheromones.
Right.
And it's so cool with the dog because you can see how scent works. You do this long enough, there's a science to it. You can understand how the scent travels, what the scent does, what is the dog reading. At Huntstock, we did a demonstration, and it wasn't that long, maybe less than 150 yards, but it had 2 points in there, two instances along that track that it just solidified, and people that were watching didn't really notice, but I noticed it right off the bat.
Yep.
We were just on a little side hill, and there was a little gully. Freddie went right into that gully.
Yep.
He didn't stay on the track itself. He got down in that gully because that's where the scent ended up drifting
settled
down.
That's
there.
cool.
But he was smart enough that he came back on that same line that he went down to pick up where that line actually went.
Huh.
And so instead of him just making a big loop and just walking around, like he came directly right back to where he walked down, and then picked up the line and continued. And then we went probably another 50, 60 yards or so, and there was a deer run. And I was excited because I knew it was a deer run. You could see the deer tracks in it. And I'm like, this is awesome because, which way did it go?
Right.
And I want to see if Freddie will be able to figure out which way it went. And sure enough, he took a right. And he went down maybe 5-10 feet.
Yeah, he didn't go far.
And turned right around and came back right on the line.
Yep.
And then when he banged the left at it, I looked down and I didn't see any blood. We went probably another 20, 30 yards, and boom, there was the hoof. There was the reward at the end
cool.
of it.
Yeah.
It was cool. So I picked up on those two things, but where somebody walking just necessarily wouldn't. And so we talk about different breeds of what dogs do, and how they react and how they work the track. Being a dog tight to the line, I can see all that sign. I can see what's happening versus, the dog he's out wandering. He's making a 30-foot arc, and if he comes back, a lot of times when I'm running a line, and I planned on doing that at Huntstock if I hadn't found, another drop of blood to confirm it. When we got past that little gully,
Yep.
I almost stopped and said, hey, we have blood there. I'm going to bring him back to confirm blood and see if that deer ended up making a jump. But he was
Pulling. He was tugging on you pretty good.
he knew which way to go, and that's the point of where I wanted to trust him. Whereas as a young pup learning, I probably would have brought him back to that last confirmed blood, and then
Like a reset, kind of.
and say, okay, no, Dad, it went this way, but now where I've got a couple 3 years under with him,
Yeah.
I trust him. And if I hadn't seen that hoof or seen a drop of blood, I certainly would go back to last blood. And I have a unique thing. I do a backtrack with him. I call him back command. Whereas if I want him to come back on the line, and I did this with Ted, and it's something that him and I learned together, and now I'm teaching Freddy how to do it, but I'll give him a back command, and I'll say back, and he knows that I want him to go right back on the same line, whether it was right or wrong. I want him to bring me right back to last spot. Well, he'll bring me right back to the start, to the beginning if I tell him back.
Yep.
And it's proven beneficial, because a lot of times when I'm on the line tracking with them, I'm looking for blood. Not only drops on the ground, smears, a smear on a branch, but I'm watching the dog too. How is he reacting? What's his body language telling me whether he's good or not? How hard is he pulling? And a lot of times on that backtrack, now I can focus just looking for sign, and most of the time I'll pick up a pin drop or something, and just because of the different angle I'm coming, with a flashlight, or it's on the backside of a branch or something, I'll pick up that blood as confirmation. And we've lost, hunters have lost a glove or something like that, and they're like, oh, I lost my glove or something substantial, and no worries, we can go back and find it. Oh, you got it on Garmin? I'm like, no, I got the Garmin right here.
He's got 4 legs.
Freddy back, and we walk the exact path, footstep to footstep, and we've picked up gloves and flashlights and
Wow,
and
that's
what
awesome.
have you. Yeah. So it's
Someone's hunting license.
it is. It's uncanny how smart these dogs can be. The time and effort put into them. It's more than just hitching on a leash and saying, okay, go find them. There is a science to it. Why did the dog do this? Well, did the deer go this way? And always learn to trust your dog.
Yep.
At a certain point, at a certain age. We always say trust your dog no matter what. Well, when you're first starting out, that's very difficult, and may not be that last that information that you may not have that sign to confirm. Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So the entire time you're going, it really is that companionship, like you were talking about earlier, just
100%.
completely feeding off each other the whole time.
Yeah. Don't ever think you're smarter than the dog either.
Right.
But you can say, okay, what happened here? You can try to help him out or help her out. Yeah.
Yep.
I lost my train of thought.
You? Really?
Yeah.
All right,
not
well, I'll
all.
splice this together.
I walk off on tangents too.
No.
No, you said
It's
something
good.
a minute ago, and it made me think of a question I had for you that wasn't something that I had pretty thought of, and now I completely lost it when I listened to the helicopter fly over.
It'll come
Oh,
back.
that's what that was?
Yeah.
Squirrel.
It sounded very weird up here. I thought it might be, but
Yeah, no, that's what it
I
was.
thought it might just be the AC ramping up.
No,
So, do you mind if I go ahead? with
Go
it?
for
Okay,
it.
cool.
it's not coming back to me.
If it is, just interrupt me if it does. I don't care. So let's kind of get into the advice stage here. Okay, so we have a brand new hunter or an experienced hunter.
That's what my next question was.
Oh, sweet.
Perfect.
Do you want to ask it?
No, just go for it.
They take a shot, right? And they're feeling that it's a good shot, everything, or maybe they're not. Maybe they think, oh, maybe I hit it back or something. What advice, dog aside, just as an experienced hunter, and from dealing with people that take shots all the time and seeing so many different outcomes, what advice would you give right after a shot to try to increase the odds of a recovery without having to call a dog?
Yep. Let's take a step back.
Cool.
From
I like
that
it.
before you even shoot. So this is part of my seminar that we do.
Yep.
And it really. So as a leash dog tracker, I want to work my dog as much as I can. I mean, I travel out to Maine, for doing moves. If I'm not at the firehouse, I'm tracking with Freddy. Put that aside. I want to work him as much as I can, but I love the stories of this is the hit, because some tips and trips that I've learned, by listening to you, recover their own animal, which is awesome. So think about when you go to hunt, you practice, you know, with your gun and bow. You get all your clothes washed, all that good stuff. You prepare for the hunt. Well, think of after the shot. You want to be prepared for what to do right after the shot. And that really, it touches on a few things of, you know, the excitement that the hunter has. And trust me, I've been there, and you learn this through experience. And actually my daughter taught me, you know, some pretty cool things with your phone. So calm down. After you make that initial shot, you make that connection, be it bow or gun or whatnot, you got to know where you were standing. Where were you? Were you in a tree stand? Were you up on a saddle? You know, how high up in that tree were you? Were you on the ground? Were you shooting through brush? You need to physically be able to put yourself back at square one, right where you were standing in that position. Now, where was that animal when you shot? How was it facing? Was it moving? Was it still? How was it positioned? Was it quartering to? Was it quartering away? Was it broadside? You know, was it standing still? And then watch that reaction of what happened, you know, at the shot, at impact. You know, did it jump up? Did it mule kick? Did it just bolt off? Did it hunch up and just kind of walk away? Did it just kind of flicker its tail and stood there and now it's yawning? You know, it's just opening and closing its mouth like, you know, he's tired. All those things can play factors in a generalization of where you hit that animal. The last place you've seen that animal. So after it walks off, where's the last physical spot, you know, in the brush or whatnot that you could see it? And if it's across the field, that's perfect, because now you've got even that much longer of, you know, a distance that you can connect the dots. And that's all we're doing is connecting dots, you know, the dot to the next dot until we have, you know, the animal. So take a picture with your phone where you were. Where was it? Where did you last see it? Take it on your phone. When you get down from your tree stand, everything on the ground is going to look a lot different than when you were up in the stand.
Yep.
There'll be extra brush. Maybe there's a twig or a ghost twig that you didn't see. I think you know this story.
Oh, I do, yeah.
Story well.
Yep.
You know, we'll revisit that. Let's go over
You
some
want
of
to do
the-
that during story time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll revisit that, because that was a good teaching moment for us. For not only for the hunters, but
Yep.
also for me, it proved a really good, useful tool. Hydrogen peroxide, one of the tools you should carry in your bag. When you spray it on blood, it's going to foam up and fizz up. If you spray it just on something red in the woods, like a leaf, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to make it look like water.
Yeah, I got to watch you do that at Huntstock, and it was really cool to actually watch it happen.
Yeah. And I didn't learn this on my own, trust me. It's another tracker that I've learned, so I'm not taking full credit. Toilet paper, huge. You know, put a drop or put a piece of toilet paper where you shot, where you were standing, where, you know, mark everything out. Because later on, when your mind starts to wander of where you hit, you can revert back to it, and now you're not guessing. You know,
Yeah.
How many times have we took our hat off and we threw it on the ground? You know, I've been there. You
Yeah.
know, especially at night. You know, there's instead of flashlights, Callum lights. You know, the chemical lights. They have these things. They're called finger lights. I'm a huge fan of these, and it wasn't a tracker that showed me this. It was another hunter I was tracking for, and he had all these lights strewn about the woods, and I'm like, dude, what are these? And he goes, oh, they're finger lights. You get them on Amazon. They're cheap. It's just a little clip-on. It's got a little rubber band, and you just turn a little switch on, and you hang that rubber band on a branch, and you can see that a mile away.
That's awesome.
I was gonna say, we were just talking earlier today about you could see that 300 yards down the hill.
From the mountain, I could see that. Yep. And they come in different colors: blue, red, green, and you can coordinate whatever color you want to whatever it means. You know, white is a trail. You know, red is the blood. Whatever. You only need to use a handful of them. You know,
Yep.
It helps you connect those dots. You know, to get out of the woods too. So if you're going back to the truck to grab a jet sled or something, you know, I always hang out a string of those. Look back, okay, I can see that light, keep going, and then that way when I come back with the jet sled, I'm not with my, flashlight trying to find, I can walk straight,
That's cool.
straight to it. It marks your animal really good, but it'll mark your hit site and all that stuff.
Jesus, Paul.
Sorry.
Incoming.
Right?
Be glad it wasn't little too. It was just he's down here. Under the leg.
I forgot where we were going with that, but that's the equipment that I would recommend. And calm down, really take a breath. If you're hunting with a buddy and you're hunting, a tree stand, and your buddy's doing a push or he's hunting his own stand, and you shoot. Time essentially is on your side. So it's right in the evening. Let your buddy finish his hunt. I'm sure he'll be texting back and forth with each other.
Right.
Hey, did you get him?
Yeah.
Type of thing. Hey, I'm not sure. Or yep, he's right here. I can see him. And if the animal didn't drop right there, finish the hunt. Let your buddy have his hunt. You might double up that evening.
Right.
And then after dark, walk him over to where the animal was. Where was he? Not necessarily where you last saw him. Start at that hit site. Don't necessarily start right at the last place seen. Start right where he hit. A lot of sign will be right there. You might be able to find a lot of sign right there. If it was archery, okay, what does the arrow look like? Is it stuck in the ground? Is it on top of the ground? Is that arrow, what does it have on it? What type of blood is on it? Does it smell? If you got a gut smell, the last thing you want to do is go over to where you last seen that deer, depending on the position of the deer,
Okay.
So
Yep.
we always say aim for your exit. So if you aim for and the exit is going to be, out the intestines or out the gut, you're going to have intestines or gut on that arrow. But if it entered through the chest cavity and you got lung, you feel really confident, you got lung, you got liver, and it just went out the bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say, well, we need to wait 6 hours because you got gut. Well, no, it actually probably a lot less or a lot sooner than that because you got some goods in there before it exited the gut. Whereas if it was just broadside and the animal took a step and now all you got is gut, I would walk out of there. I wouldn't want your friend coming in the direction that deer went,
Yep.
Loop around, okay, come in this way, yeah, go look at my arrow. He kind of acted funny. He just didn't jump up and bolt. He just kind of jumped, but kind of walked away.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm not going to have my friend go anywhere near the last place I saw that animal. You need to give that animal some time.
Yep.
Yeah. So
What
what
is-
happens right there makes a big difference. And
Yeah.
then if everything looked good and that arrow has, decent blood, pinkish, frothy blood, even some bright red muscle blood, I wouldn't be hesitant, unless the deer just walked off. If that deer bolted, I would go at the last scene and then mark that really good and then continue that blood trail. General rule, hour, 40 minutes. I know it's, hey, yeah, we've got plenty of, yeah, it's been 10 minutes, let's go. We always have that. A very good friend of mine shot a 300 pounder. It was with the bow, and I was in a double buddy, hang on stand. He was in a ladder stand, and he brought his bow, and I had my gun with me, and my handgun. And I said, if you don't want to shoot it with the bow, I'll shoot it with the handgun. So he ended up sticking it. It was bigger than he imagined, and he had no question afterwards. But it was a quartering away shot, and I felt really confident on the shot. But being trackers and okay, we've seen this a million times. Hey, we got to give it at least 15 minutes. We didn't hear a death moan, but I felt very confident on the kill. And I don't think it was 2 minutes. We got down. I'm like, hey, I got to piss. Yeah, me too. Go take a piss, and then you come back, and now it literally is like 3 minutes. It's like we gotta go. Let's go. Let's just go to the hit site and we'll poke. We're the worst offenders. But if you can, time is essentially on your side when it comes to that, especially if the weather's cool and whatnot. Because if it's dead in 3 minutes, it'll be dead in 40 minutes when you get there.
Right.
Yeah.
And at least with bears, you get the death moan. Like you can, if they die locally, for
Yeah.
the most part, you're gonna hear them.
If they death moan, yeah, that's a time for celebration. I have had bears, take a deep breath or exhale a deep breath, and you think it's a moan and it's not, or just a general vocalization, with other bears, and you might mistake that for a moan. A death moan, typically you don't. If you've heard it before, it stands out, and it's undescribable, and it's undeniable.
Yep.
Whereas some vocalization, you can say, I don't know if that was a moan or not. Madison's bear this year, I heard one big exhale. It wasn't a moan, it was just one big, and that was 80 yards out. Heard it clear as day, and I was hopeful that it was a death moan, and it wasn't. It was just a big exhale. He got banged up, and he was just exhaling. He was nowhere near dead.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
I was gonna wait for Paul to ask the next one, but now he's.
I stuffed my phone under my leg so it was quiet. You've answered a bunch of my questions just as you're going.
I can talk a dog off a meat wagon when it comes to tracking. We've got. Oh, let's go back to the that hunt that you were involved with, the tracking.
Sure.
We used that, if I remember right, gentleman shot the deer. There was no definitive reaction to the deer. Didn't have any blood or any sign to follow.
Right.
Felt very confident on the shot. I don't think it mule kicked, but it jumped up like it was hit. And it was
muzzleloader.
I was going to say, what were we talking? Archery muzzleloader?
Okay.
Muzzleloader season.
That's what it was. That's right.
Yep.
So, no definitive reaction with the cloud right afterwards. So we brought Freddy in, and pretty much Freddy told us that it wasn't a viable hit.
Right.
We had no sign, which doesn't scare me for, out to 150, 200 yards.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a vital hit and you don't have any sign, I've seen that before. Go out. But generally, if it's a trackable animal, you'll find something. You'll find that, and that's where Freddy being tight to the line, I can tell he's tight to the line. And he did. I believe he was on that deer because I told him, that's the deer I want you to track, and he did take it out quite a ways. And it seemed like he was on it, and for a discernible, where you guys last seen the deer, he took us right to where you last seen it. He was on that track.
Yep.
So just another thing, another tool. So I have a helmet that I wear sometimes, and it's got a little laser on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned this in Maine when I was looking for another deer. It was new having this laser, and it was trying to decide deflection. So I'm like, hey, I want to try this. So we climbed up in the tree stand, and during the daylight, it doesn't look like there's any limbs or branches in the way. But you put that little laser on, and man, that thing got deflected a gazillion times. It's like all these little
Just
whippets and little branches.
Yeah.
Right. And what a tool to use where you during daylight you wouldn't think twice about those little whippets, and you wouldn't think that a bullet would get deflected by hitting a little whippet.
Right.
But for the distance, out, if it's 10 yards, or where is that branch? Where is that deflection compared to where you want it to hit that animal?
Right.
So if it's really close, the deflection, you're still going to hit that animal. But if it's far enough away, especially being that far of a distance, shooting from a tree stand down through this, a little bit of whippet here, it was eye-opening as how much of a deflection chance there was.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
A muzzleloader round. They're not the most. They don't punch through everything as well
they
as
don't.
other
I mean,
they
rounds.
don't.
So
They're a big meaty round, but they don't have a lot of velocity to carry them through much.
You don't have a lot of that pass through.
Right.
And we've had where powder has gotten wet. They don't clean their muzzleloader out right after the rain. Or being damp. So then sometimes that powder gets a little wet. I've tracked plenty of deer where the ball is just inside the shoulder blade, and then the hunter will shoot it the following week. I've had couple times that's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what point do you, you're out there trying to find this animal you took a shot at what point do you say call a dog or at least talk to a tracker? Because I've done that before. Actually, when I called Joanne, my call was, hey, can I run the scenario by you? And she was like, yeah, let's come out and track it. So I've done that just to call and run a scenario by somebody. But what do you recommend? Like, when do you make that decision to make that call?
Yeah, so knowing that you have that resource available, reach out. So once you track, let's go, you hit your animal, you've got some blood, you've got it marked, however far you've tracked it, and now you start losing blood. If you've already tracked it 1.5 miles, 2 miles, never put eyes on it. That animal's just making, the deer. Moose is a whole different animal, really. It is a different animal, but it is a different animal. If you, at a certain point, even having a dog, the chance of making that recovery because of where we think that animal got shot, may not be recoverable. It's just bleeding. But if you go a certain distance and now it just dries up, you don't have any more blood, several things could happen. It's, did the animal backtrack and you didn't pick that up, and then it took a right or it took a left, or it just jumped off trail or made a circle. So that's where running the toilet paper is awesome. So if you find a drop of blood, put a piece of toilet paper down, and now you work that trail out. Well, now you can look back and you have a line, or you have a buddy looking and said, oh, I've got blood over here. Well, I got blood again. Here's another drop of blood. Well, it's the blood that you've already been on. If you would put a piece of toilet paper down, you can discern that, okay, the deer just made a loop, and now we're coming across the blood that is just crossing its own trail. And a wounded deer, they'll do everything and anything, and they'll do zigzags over their own trail. Well, if you have that marked out, it's easy to see what that deer did, to get to the end of the track, the trail's end there. So toilet paper marking that is huge. When you get to a point where you don't have any more sign, and you go out path of least resistance, you go straight out and straight back, okay, there's another run over here, did it go this way? Go out 50, 60 yards. Really look for those little pin drops, look for smears, not necessarily just on the ground, but what did that animal brush up against? It could be on a branch, or it could be on a leaf. It may not be on the ground. It may be just on the hide that's getting brushed against. Once you exhausted those efforts and really tried to, you made your best effort, make a semicircle. Maybe you caught where the animal turned. Now you can pick it up on that semicircle. 2 or 3 guys, path of least resistance, couple semicircles. Is fine. A well-trained dog, that is not going to be an issue. Mind you, if that is a mortally wounded animal, it's going to have a lot of wound scent. So yeah, you may have blood on your shoes or some of that fluid on your shoes. Now you've made like spaghetti for the dog to follow. So it's very difficult for a dog to pick up a point of loss if you grid search, if you just walk around. That's why evening hunts, tracking it in the dark is awesome. Like, I'd rather track in the evening because it forces you to look close. It's you're more defined. You've got blinders on because you can't see 10 feet away from you.
Right.
It's making you generalize. Okay, here's a trail. Okay, I'm going to look for this branch. Versus if it was daylight, I'm going to guarantee you're looking past that branch and you're looking over that little log.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then what are you more apt to do? And I'm guilty of it. What's over this hill?
Yeah, you're just wandering.
Maybe it's just over this rise.
Oh yeah, there's a little gully down here. Probably went. Yeah. Oh yeah, go into the thick stuff where it'll die and go. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go take a look. Real funny, real quick story.
Yep.
Track for a gentleman here, and they did an awesome job. Marked the trail very well. It was on a little bit of a hill, and there was a bunch of gullies. That's what makes me think of this, like skitter ruts, but from glacier.
Yep.
So we get there with Ted, and we start the track right at the road crossing. It was their private dirt road that they drive in from their camp. And so we start there. There was a couple drops of blood, and they had blood for a bit. Down in the woods, they lost it about 100 yards from the road. So start Ted there. We get all the way down into there, and they had a hat marking their last blood. I kind of chuckled, and I said, "Okay, this is your last blood." Yep. And what direction? So yep, it's coming down this way. And I got a 30-foot lead, and now I let Ted start taking the lead out, and the lead went slack. And I look down, now I shine my light, Ted's on the deer. They were there for a half an hour. They walked right over this deer. It was just in one of those gullies. He was never so embarrassed. It literally took us longer to walk. The drive out was an hour and a half ride to get up to the track, and it took longer, the time I, changed my boots when I got there for him to, from the time we got last blood to the deer. And it's just, that's where a leash tracking dog really came in handy. They walked over it several times, even with bear, where it's so thick, you just can't see. So I guess the moral of the story is, during the day you're gonna make that spaghetti, where at night, hopefully you don't make that spaghetti. It was easy for the dog to track that. They had walked, a little bit, but they didn't screw up the track. So knowing that you have, a tracking dog available, make a phone call. Hey, this is what I got going on. I might need you, I might not. I'm all for that. Give me a call. Try to line that up. If you make a call and you can't get a hold of anybody, and during the season, there's a handful of us that's our passion. That's all we do. Most work, day jobs. We have full-time jobs. You can't be tracking, all hours of the night. There's some of us that track all hours of the night. We're zombies the rest of the next day. But,
I was gonna say, also shift work kind of plays a hand in that, because you're used to being up all hours of the night at work, so being up another day, it's like, it's just another day.
Now I'm just comatose, for the rest of the week. But that time of year I'm comatose anyways. But see if you can line somebody up. If you can reach out, and if you can get a hold of a tracker. If you exhaust, a few phone calls, and nobody's able to come out and give you a hand, and say, yeah, I can come and help you, then do what you got to do. Now you start working a little bit of a grid search. Just keep in mind, the more that you walk around, the tougher it's going to be if you can get a dog in there. You really the more you walk around, the more you spread that scent. I've worked a track that was grid searched by 4 or 5 guys, and you'll ask, hey, did how far did you go? Oh, we went just a little ways. And then the dog takes me, a couple 300 yards out, and there's a boot print in the mud. And it's like, did anybody walk out here? No. Well, maybe we walked out that way. And I've spent 45 minutes, an hour at a grid search, just spinning wheels. The dog's just trying to work this out. And then once he finds the exit, like within 5 minutes, we had the deer.
Right.
And the guy's like, well, too bad the dog couldn't just walk up to it, an hour ago. I'm like, well, hadn't you walked around, for 3 days? Yeah, he probably would have been able to pick it up. So there's a fine line of, give it a good go. Path of least resistance, mark as you go, and then when you get to a point that, this isn't going the way I'm hoping it is, mark it and back out. See if you can get a dog to come in, and then at that point, if you can't, go back out later on, try to work that even more. New hunters. I put it out there on social media every year, and last year I think I did it 3 times. If you're a new hunter, reach out to me. You put a shot on a deer, and you think you got a real good hit. Talk to me about it. What did you have for sign? Did you look? Well, you don't know how to look for sign. You don't know where to look. Let me come out. We'll put Freddy in the truck. I'll leave him in the truck. You and I will go out. We're going to bring some toilet paper. We're going to work this track.
That's awesome.
I'm going to teach you what I know. And like I said, I did it 3 times last year. It was awesome.
That's really cool.
That's great.
We spent an hour and a half, 2 hours on some of these tracks, just physically, hands and knees, just looking for sign. And then we recover those deer. And it was awesome. It was just boom. Now I was able to teach somebody. I was fortunate growing up that dad and uncles that, were phenomenal trackers. Got my first deer when I was 15, so I had that tutoring and that knowledge passed on to me. And now tracking behind a dog, I pick up that much more.
Sure.
So I want to be able to share that and teach people. And if I have that opportunity, so those 3 deer that we found, they weren't pictures on social media showing, hey, look at what my dog found.
Right.
We didn't need a dog. Like on those certain tracks, we didn't need a dog. We found them on our own because we had, good sign. The dog would have found it, no problem.
Right.
He would have walked us right to the deer. In some instances, that's great. Don't get me wrong, I love that. We call those easy tracks. There's, we'll do, a pile of them, and I think last year I was up to 16 tracks in a row without a recovery.
Wow.
And it really wears on your mind. And the dog's working his tail off, literally. And he doesn't have a chew at the end of it. He doesn't have that end result of, he's worked these, reward. And you feel bad for the dog, because you'd like to see him have success, and that's his, hey, I'm working hard, but I get this reward at the end, where now he doesn't have a reward. And you do a dozen, 15, now you're at 16. It's like, I'll gladly take one of those 150-yard gimme tracks in a heartbeat.
Right.
Please, somebody shoot a deer and just let me let the dog find it.
Yeah.
It does. It's a whole process.
Yeah.
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 With you having your New Hampshire license, Maine license, do you have one in Vermont too?
I don't.
Because I know
Vermont is a test you have to
there's
take.
a test.
Yeah, same with Maine. So Maine, I had to take a written test, and then I believe the license is for 3 years, but I have to buy an out-of-state non-resident hunting license every year.
Oh, okay.
So I can track. Yeah, so it's a commitment to track up in Maine.
Yeah.
I think it's a $150 license. I don't physically have a chance to hunt Maine.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't have the opportunity.
If someone's looking to get a hold of you as a leash dog tracker, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you? Or how would they find another dog tracker in either one of the states you have a license?
Yep. So New Hampshire Fish and Game website, there's a tab for leash dog tracking, and any registered leash dog tracker in the state that wants to track for public will be on that list. There's other trackers, they're just not on the state list. Also, United Blood Trackers is another resource. That list is a few of us that are UBT members, but the big one is social media, New Hampshire Blood Trackers page. That is a great resource. Diane Richardson runs the social media end of it, and she does awesome. And she puts up a map, an interactive map of the trackers and locations, with the names and numbers. Yeah. And some trackers. So we try to tell people is, contact the tracker, closer to you, and then work your way out. If there's a certain tracker you've worked with in the past and you want to, have them come track, then call them directly. I've had trackers, I've done tracks for certain people, and then the following year they call a different tracker. It's no hard feelings. It's everybody tracks a little bit different. The end results are, could be different depending on what tracker you have. Some have more experience than others. Good and bad. You got to learn. You like Freddy. He's only 3. He's not. He doesn't have the experience that Ted had, but he's there. He's doing awesome. He's doing really good. We're almost at 100 recoveries. He just turned 3.
Wow.
He's got a lot of experience under his collar already. But I've also done 80, 90 tracks per season. So I'm able to put the tracks. Just because we do a track doesn't mean you're going to find the animal. I love the fact that we get pictures. I've gotten quite a few now of deer that we tracked last year. And we got photos of them alive, either after the season or now they're in velvet. You can see a wound on them, a hind quarter injury or something. To me, that just, it's it's rewarding when you know the dog is done right. Those
Right.
16 in a row
Right.
may not have recovered an animal,
Yeah.
Yep.
but I've got proof that the dog was right. We made the
Exactly.
right call, that it
Yeah.
wasn't a recoverable animal. You know, that's what, you know, yeah, these 100, 200 yard tracks, yeah, sometimes they're great. I love them. But, you know, time and time again, you know, why are these people not able to track their own? Let me show you how to track. You know,
Yeah.
that's why I do the seminars. And
Yeah.
I compare it to, you know, the fire service. We all love fires. We don't want anybody hurt. We don't want property damage. Forget it. We love fires. We love work, and that's what we're trained to do. But what do? We have these awesome fire prevention, you know.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
takes our jobs away.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that last night.
There's so
Things
much.
don't burn anymore.
Yeah, it's because of fire protection. You know,
Yeah.
we've got all these laws, and you know, we spend the whole month in, you know, October at schools teaching, you know, fire safety, and you know, which is all wonderful, but we don't have fires like we used to either.
Yeah. We were literally just having that conversation last night.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go to another med call.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah.
If someone's interested in becoming a leash dog tracker, what would be their first steps into taking this on?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
File for
It's-
divorce.
Yeah, it's addictive. One, if
It's like
you,
when someone says, "I want to be a first responder." You're like, "Yeah, don't do it."
Don't do it. Your life is ruined.
have I have a story for you. It's a lot of fun. It really is. If you love working with your dog and being able to help people, it's a wonderful thing to get into. Time away. It takes time. Somebody that has a dog and says, "Yeah, he's got a good nose. I think he'd be great at finding deer." No doubt, probably Fido next door could probably find some of these tracks. Yeah, they got a good nose. It's the mentality, the problem solving that some of these dogs like Freddy has. You know, he can work out, you know, a grid search, you know, backtracks, you know, marginal hits. You know, he can figure that out. Where some dogs, if you don't have the time invested with him in the training, using the right tools to train him, may not pick up on that. If you enjoy hunting, you got to make a choice. Am I going to hunt or am I going to track?
Sure.
You know, there's a gentleman, he's got an awesome dog, loves to hunt. His kids are growing up and he wants to spend as much time as he can hunting. He will hunt, no doubt, puts his phone away, doesn't even answer. You know, later in, you know, the evening or the next day, he might call somebody back. He might do a track or two. Does a handful of them. His dog's phenomenal, done very well. But that's his case. You know, you just got to separate yourself. I'm very much in that same boat. If I don't have a track, if I don't have anything, you know, pressing or coming in, I'll grab the gun and I'll go for a walk. And it's a poke and a hope. I don't have tree stands set up. Bear hunting's a little different. I've got a lot invested in my bear hunting.
Yeah.
So I separate time for bear season, you know, versus tracking. This year I've scheduled everybody north of the archery, you know, beginning of archery. So hopefully that first week of archery, I'm leaving myself more time to track than I am
nice.
to hunt. You know, I've already got it in my mind. If I get a bear this year, great. If not, it's going to be an opportunistic thing. Whereas if I get a track, you know, the Jersey guys are coming up before bow season, so I'm not dealing with guiding, you know, during the end of the season. Girls are old enough; they're on their own. You need me to track, Freddie will be there for you, and I'll help you haul it out. But you're on your own.
Well, they run the dog too, though, right? You said.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I'm glad you point that out. When I was at the firehouse, and a friend ended up shooting one, and I trust him to take the dog, but you have to have a tracking license in order to do it.
Right.
So Caitlin actually has her license, and
Wow.
she did a track. She has a bond with him, so he wanted to work for her.
Yeah.
It worked awesome. They made a great recovery.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. When I had
Is that her first one?
that was her first one last year with Freddie. Yeah, Madison, my youngest daughter, did more with him as the tracking. I had neck surgery a couple of years ago, and I couldn't physically pick up Freddie. I could walk, no problem walking in the woods, but I was just nervous of lifting the dog in and out of the truck and whatnot. So we got her license, and she did all the lifting, and she actually ran the collar, and she did a couple awesome tracks that,
Wow.
you know, the dog really worked well. She learned to read him as I was pointing out what was going on. Yeah, we've got some great memories with her doing
Really
some
cool.
real good tracks.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
So it's a family affair.
it is. Yeah, he's part of the family. He's in bed with us every night. Yeah,
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. We just hope that he'd sleep like a hot dog, you know, not a hamburger.
Yeah. I get that one.
You know? Yeah.
Cannon sleeps half on my chest at most of the nights.
Yeah, it's funny how much of a bond, you know, you wake up and you get
Yep.
the snout and the muzzle against your, and he's just, you know, drool's coming down your cheek. What are you doing, dude?
Yep. My alarm goes off and I sometimes wake up to a paw on either side of my chest and his nose just looking at me going, "Can we go out now? Can we go out now?"
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Nope.
No.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And so it kind of brought me into the question, have you ever tracked any of your own shots or your family shots?
Yeah, so Madison's bear last
Okay.
year. With Ted, I tracked a muzzleloader shot deer. Caitlin actually ran Teddy on that for a muzzleloader shot that I had. But the most recent one was Madison's bear. This was awesome. We would have never found this bear without Freddy, hands down. She shot. It was. Let's start from the beginning. We were in a ground blind, 30 yards. Bear came into the bait site. Completely broadside, 100% broadside. She's shooting with a 308. She's on a rest. She's a heck of a lot better shot than I will ever be. I've got the most confidence in my girls. The girls are a better shot than. Anyways, she wasn't wasn't overly excited. Her pressure was up. She knew it was a big bear. She had passed on a 200-pounder the week before, which was nuts. And so she knew this one was well over 200 pounds. She made the perfect shot in my mind. I told her, be steady. I put her earmuffs on. She squeezed the trigger. She wasn't jumpy. The bear bolted right at the hit. Good sign as far as I could tell. I couldn't see the impact. I just knew that it all looked really good. I stuck my head out the blind, and now I'm listening. I'm watching. I could see the bear for about 60 yards, and then it just goes out of sight. And it's a lot of that. We call it bayberry stuff, but it's a broadleaf, ground bush.
Oh, yeah.
Mixed in with some maple and whatnot. It's here in the White Mountains.
Oh,
Beautiful
yes.
country. Didn't see anything, and all I heard was that one exhale. It was
Okay.
like probably 30 seconds right after he went out of sight, just a exhale. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, now I'm waiting for a death moan. No death moan. We give it, our typical, 30 seconds. Reload. Now we're listening. I think we waited close to 15 minutes. It was right at twilight, so we had a little bit of daylight. I wanted to go look for sign right at the hit site. That was my main objective. I felt really good for a shot, so let's go take a peek. So she grabbed the gun. We grabbed flashlights because it's going to start turning, and there was a little bit of blood on one of the trees as the bear ran by. Nothing behind the bear. Mind you, I looked. I'm paying attention. Okay, was it a pass through? Wasn't a pass through. I didn't have any sign on the back side. So where did she hit this bear that 308 didn't pass through? So now I'm just paying attention. It's on the right hand side. That's the entrance side. That's where that spurt of blood was. There was one drop of blood and some green leaf, big green leaf, part way out, but then that was it. But what I was following was his pads where he had kicked up the dirt, and there was a run there, and you could tell exactly where you got dirt on top of those leaves. And we made it out about the last place seen, and just his last little paw print, and then I couldn't see anything else. That's where he went to start walking. So I hung toilet paper right there, and as her and I are standing there, we can hear something up on the left. Now mind you, there was a couple raccoons on the bait when she shot. So hearing that, and they scurried off in that direction. So I'm thinking, well, it could be just one of the raccoons just settling now that we're here. It wasn't looking good in our favor. Let's give it some time. So we marked it, and then we boogied right. We walked back out on the trail. We walked in on, I'm gonna bring Freddy in. I brought Freddy in there. That was 4 hours later, thinking she felt as though, if anything, she was a little far back. Instead of aiming forward towards the shoulder, I always taught them middle on a bear because of the anatomy on them. You know, those the lungs go way back. I said, you aim middle. If you have any doubt, go an inch or two towards the front shoulder, but don't go more than that. So she feels as though she might have been an inch or two further back than middle. Okay, so liver, guts. Okay, no problem. We're gonna give him some time. So we gave him about 4 hours. We came back in with Freddy. And because we didn't do any of that grid searching or whatnot, we didn't walk around. We walked path in, path out, and then back out to the stand. He was able to pick up, you know, the scent from right from the get-go. He made it out to where we had our marker. He went out probably another 20 yards straight ahead. Now we're on a side cliff, and then there's a swamp on the right-hand side, and then on the left is sheer mountain. We're right on a plateau. He made it about 20 yards out, and then Freddy came right back, and he went back to hit site, and he didn't waver off that trail. It wasn't like he was, but he came right back to hit site. It's like he gained more information. It was awesome. And then as soon as he hit that 20 yards past, he banged a left, and he started climbing the hill. And now I'm thinking if she gut shot it, it would be down on the right. You know, he's going to go to water. Totally opposite. And it's a sheer cliff where you actually have to, you know, hand over a fist to climb up. And we get up there about 20 yards, there's a drop of blood. And Freddy's on at 110%. He's not, he's having difficulty climbing up these boulders. Yeah. And we get up there about, I'd say 35, 40 yards from the base, and there's a boulder, and a nice flat spot is a bear bed, and it's got blood in it. I'm like, now hair standing up on my arm. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, he bedded here. He's banged up, bedded on his own, but he got up on his own. It wasn't Toro. It wasn't like we kicked him up.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is when we got there, when we first started tracking, that was him climbing up that hill, just getting into that bed. Yeah. Or he was in that bed, and he took a couple steps climbing further. So at that bear bed, I didn't know which way it went. There was one trail that went down. Freddy went there and came back, and then immediately started climbing the hill again. Yep. So I hung a green finger light right there, right at that bed. I figured if anything, I can get started right here. We made another push, another 20 yards or so up the steep cliff, and now it flattens out. It's more of a plateau. Yep. Another drop of blood. No more beds, just that drop of blood. And now we're pointing in the direction, you know, a flat, like path of least resistance. And we look down at about 80 yards or so. You know, mind you, we got huge spotlights. Everything looks like a dead bear in the dark.
Oh yeah,
right.
And
everything's black.
Yeah. And Freddy's pulling hard. It's like, and that's right in the direction. And Greg, my friend from New Jersey, said, I think that's him. And now we all shine, and I got a gazillion power lumen light, and I light up the whole sky with that. And sure enough, I'm like, I think that's him. But is he dead? So we made our approach slowly, and where I had Freddy with me, I could dispatch if I had to. Right. Luckily, we didn't have to. So that bear was dead in less than 4 hours. Wow. It caught the liver, is what it was. Mm-hmm. So she was just a touch back a little bit. She hit, and it didn't pass through. It was a little bit turned more than what we imagined. It wasn't completely broadside, and it caught the liver and some of the rib bone there. Okay. And with the mass of that bear, it didn't pass through. And that was a 308. It mushroom made a mess in the inside. Sure. But that was hands down. Now, if we didn't have the dog, to say that I would have scurried up that hill and found that bed, probably not. Wow. In all honesty, we probably would have grid searched that whole swamp. Yep. You know, 10 times over. Yep. Yeah. So lessons learned: they never go wherever you think they're gonna go. Yeah. You know, there's no set thing. You know, a gut shot deer is gonna go to water. I've seen gut shot deer climb hills and go totally away from water. Not that, you know, the majority of them will go to water, but there's instances where they won't. You know, wounded deer don't go uphill. I've seen deer climb mountains. You know, one of our biggest bucks we found, it was shot right between the shoulder blades. It was a steep angle. That thing was a long diaphragm liver hit, The deer had a lot of gas. It was only a single lung, but he caught the liver through the diaphragm. That's what essentially killed that deer. No exit wound. We only had one drop of blood. That was Ted that found that deer. Totally blew me away. And we spent a lot of time working that track because there wasn't a whole lot of wound scent there, but Ted knew that there was wound scent that was a dead deer. And the guy I was with, and we must have been there a half an hour, 40 minutes, and he was just walking this line. And he goes, no, I don't think the deer went up the hill. And when we made the top of it, we were like leapfrogging. And then finally I made that final push, and there was the buck. It was a beautiful 8-pointer.
Wow.
To this day, this guy he's like, dude, that was the best thing that ever. It was awesome. It's cool when you can get, it worked out for everybody. Yeah, we've tracked for Madison. I had one for myself. My dad tracked a couple deer from my dad. So it's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a great story. Do you have any others that you want to share?
There's a deer story.
Yeah.
So I can talk all day long.
Dude, hell yeah, go for it. I love the stories.
This was a rifle hit in real beautiful big 8-pointer. The gentleman shot it, took a few shots. The deer was bounding, took a few shots. Awesome tracker. I tracked for him 2 years prior. We found a beautiful buck for him 2 years prior to that. So he ended up following blood. He had a decent blood trail, and then it just petered out. And it was right at a decent brook. A brook big enough where it's, thigh deep,
Okay.
water. So you didn't have to swim across it, but you were going to get wet. Thigh deep on me, so it's ankle deep to most people. But he didn't know if that deer, went across the brook. Did it double back? At that point he had lost it, and he had marked it really well. I said, yeah, let's bring Freddy in. So I got Freddy to, where he hit his marked line. Yeah, oh yeah, he's on it. We get right to point of loss, and Freddy just continued right across the brook. Didn't even hesitate. Jumped right in. I'm like, well, I think your deer crossed the brook here. And I have rubber boots, hip boots on these boots that I have. So I undo those and I clip them. Anyways, I get across. He's like, I got to find a place across. I'm like, well, you're going to hear us walking because I got a bell on them. And I said, just meet up with me right here. I ain't going to go far. So he went downstream a little bit, and actually we waited. I wanted the hunter with him, with me. It was just, it was later in the afternoon. He did this first thing in the morning, so it wasn't like I could see wet spots, across the brook. So couldn't tell anything there. No more blood. That was it. Like where the deer bedded and he jumped, that deer crossed the brook. There was no more blood after that. We went into this cut and we followed this cut. Mind you, I'm not following any discernible track. There's tracks throughout there. It was a skid road. Did the deer go up through the cut? Did it follow this edge? Well, Freddy kept following this edge, and Pete's the guy's name. Pete, I says, let's just keep going. I said, I don't have any sign, but he seems like he's on it and he wants it. Okay. So we keep working, and we get down to the edge of this swamp. Like, it's a long swamp. We're kind of following the edge. Kind of cut cross lots a little bit. And he said, hey, if we continue, we're going to go right to where we found my buck 2 years ago. Cool. It was iced over, that little, swamp grass. It was iced over. But the channel, Freddy ended up picking this channel, and there weren't any smears on the blonde grass, which I was surprised. And I'm looking hard. But the ice was broken going out this little channel.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, Pete, I says, this is the only place that the ice is broken. This is right where Freddy's going. And he says, he's headed right over to where where we shot, we got the last one. I said, what's the access to get across? He said, we got to walk all the way back around, because I walked out as far as I could in my hip boots, and it was over my head. There's a beaver channel in there.
Yeah.
I said, let's go back, and we'll make our way around, and we'll make a loop. So we come back, and we're starting to make a loop, and all of a sudden, boom, here comes the buck, and it jumps. It was bedded in that grass, and we weren't probably 50 yards from it when we walked out.
No.
But when we started skirting around, he got nervous, and he jumped up. So Pete pulled up, and it was definitely him, discernible, rack, and he fired 2 more times, and then you could hear the ice break and the splash, ice splash, and then nothing, and we're like, awesome. Like, I think you put one in the back of him, and he's down. Well, now it's starting to get that, we got 20 minutes of daylight left. I said, how do we get over there? So now I start walking out, and it's over my boots, and I'm looking, and it's just grass. I'm like, well, we got to come back with a canoe or something. I said, we got to go in that channel. I bet you it's just floating right in that channel. So we go back up to his side. It's all on his property. We take a UTV back up, and then we drag a canoe all the way out. And he's dragging we get the canoe down to the end by the beaver dam. And I said, hey, well, you're out here. Now it's pitch black. Now it's dark. I said, you go there. I said, I'm just going to walk this edge. I'm sure he's just laying right in he's floating right there. We're invested in this. I felt that he had a decent shot on it. So I start walking the far edge, and I didn't even get up about 75 yards, and there was the buck laying there. After his shot, he had another killing shot on it as he jumped it. So I don't know where the first shot was or where the second shot was, but he did have he had one through the back shoulders as the deer was up. He shot one through the shoulders that got long. Yeah. That's why he only made it that far after that. Another one would have never recovered it without the dog. There was no sign. Right. Like once he crossed that brook, there was no sign whatsoever. Trust your dog. I got so much faith in this dog. If he said, "Hey, this deer, went down Main Street," I'm gonna tell you he went down Main Street. We've crossed roads or nothing. Shell station in Goffstown. I walked right across the front dooryard of the Shell station. I got a picture of it on my phone.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
right in the fresh cut grass. There's a hoof print, and that was, and we put that deer up. Yeah.
Wow. What time of day was that?
That was in the morning, like 10 in the morning.
So like everyone just
people going to work and you just wandering across.
What's this guy doing?
Yeah. Here I am with the dog walking across.
10 minutes later, they're dragging it back across.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool.
Golf course. We put one up, and this was one of those. Are we hunting with the dog, or are we trying to make a recovery? This one, the kid shot with a 12 gauge. And we put that deer, I put eyes on it 3 times. It was just, and ridgy, a lot of bumps. And you come up, and then there's the deer, but not fast enough where the kid could actually get a shot on it, and then the deer would bound off. Well, we come across a golf course, and you could see the splayed out tracks in the where they drive the golf carts, and then in the grass, and there's people golfing, and they're looking at us like, what are you doing? And then they give us the thumbs up, like, pointing, he just went this way. Like we were hot on his trail, like, 200 yards, and I didn't see his butt leave the golf course, but I know he just went there. Yeah. When he got in the woods, he'd settle right back down, and the kid was able to get a finishing shot on him. But that one there was another, gut, liver, the deer, it was a dead deer. It's not
just
like
a matter of when.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like we shot a toenail and we're running them, and we're gonna, take the handgun out and start flinging shots at them. It was, the kid was, so during the season, during the day, whatever weapon is used, the hunter can dispatch the animal, and I 110% rather have the hunter shoot that animal. Right. So if we're tracking your deer, your bear, and it's during daylight legal hours, I'm pulling you up. Hey, here he is. If it's after hours, then I'm the one that has to dispatch it. A bear. Another quick story. Yeah. Same thing. Archery. New to hunting. Flung an arrow. He found a blowdown to sit next to. This was awesome. It was an awesome guy. Just shit luck. The bear comes walking down the trail. He was deer hunting, and bear was legal. He had his bow, and about 30 yards, flung an arrow. Seeing the arrow stick in the bear as it took off. So now I'm questioning. Okay, how deep was that arrow in? Where was the position? Yeah. He really was, taken away because he didn't expect to see anything. It was his first day or two out. So I'm like, I'll come up. Let's bring it. And it's up on a mountain. So it was quite a walk to. We met and got up there. I had tracked there for another gentleman a couple of years prior, so I knew the area. And it's not fun. It's a big mountain. and it's a long hike to get up in there where he was. He described it, and I knew exactly where he was. And anyways, we start Freddy right at the hit site. There was a little bit of blood there. We make it all the way out to a stone wall, probably 150 yards out, and there's the arrow, covered tip to tail, full of blood.
Okay.
Okay. So this arrow, and it goes to show you the sign that you can, that you pick up on. That arrow passed through that bear. So he ended up seeing the arrow go into the bear, and he's seen the fletching. Well, that arrow pulled all the way through. And the way we could tell that was on the left-hand side. We had blood smeared. It's like it caught on a branch, the broadhead or whatever caught on the branch, and then it flipped around, and it was on the left-hand side of the bear on the trail.
Okay.
So it wasn't laying on the right-hand side of the trail. It was on the left-hand side. So, and it was tip to tail, and there was no hair on it. So it wasn't like it stuck in and then pulled out.
Yep.
A lot of times on an archery or on an arrow, you'll have an arrow that makes penetration and then pulls out. And that penetration, typically you'll find a hair or two on the shaft. And then there might be blood, beyond that, closer to the fletching end or the knock, but there's no hair on that. Typically where that hair is, and it might only be one strand of hair, that's essentially as far as that arrow went in. The rest of that blood, it could be 5-6 inches of blood. People think, I got 20 inches of penetration. Well, no, you only got 6, because see this hair? This hair is where it stopped. That's as far as you got. This one here, it passed through. There was no hair on it. So in my mind, it was a pass through. So we stayed right on it. My hair stood up, and I says, hey, I really think we got a good chance at recovering this bear.
Yep.
I don't think it'll be dead. It wasn't gut, but it was darker blood, and I'm thinking liver. And it was, like a couple hours. It wasn't a long period of time, but a couple hours after the shot that I was there. Anyways, it was a couple, 3-4 beds, hands and knees, like the thickest stuff you've ever been. And I hunt some pretty thick stuff for bear. This was a talk of hellhole blowdowns, where everything is, you can't walk through it. You're on your hands and knees. And Freddy's navigating it no problem.
Well, yeah, he's only this high off the ground. He can just sneak under all that stuff.
Following you.
I'll never forget it. I'm on hands and knees, and I'm looking for sign, and boom, I put my hand right in a pile of bear shit. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Yes. Okay, wipe
Got
that
some over
off.
here.
Yeah. Smears, found a couple smears. I'm like, hey, come over here. This is a smear. It's dry blood. So this is the other point I want to make. I had dry blood in all these beds. Finally get up to a bed, wet blood. I said, we just put him up. I said, look at the marks on the ground. See where he struggled to get up, and now we've got wet blood. These were all dry blood. We got wet blood. He's still alive. Let's go. And we made it probably another 10 yards, and then it just opened up. There was a little bit of open hardwood, some pine mixed in, and I can just see black moving. And I'm like, get up here. And he had a handgun. And I said, there he is. I said, why don't you shoot him? And instead of me grabbing my handgun, I'm like, just go up to him. He's banged up. He's hurt.
Right.
It's the bear's severely wounded, new to hunting, and we're like, I don't know, 35 yards. We're a shot away, a lot farther than a handgun that I would feel. And he's over there, and I'm like, no, go ahead, move.
No, buddy, get closer.
He's like,
that's fine.
I'm not going up there.
He's not,
I'm thinking new hunter, like, no, I don't. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, I'm not dishing him by any means.
Right.
I have the experience. I would have ran right up, and closed the distance. And he shot once, and I said, get right up there, rather than me handing him the dog and me going up. That was his hunt.
Yeah.
So I brought the dog up. Freddy does great with gunshots. It doesn't bother him. So I actually picked up Freddy, and I'm like, get over here, come up. And he goes, he's right there. I'm like, yeah, okay. Yep. Shoot him. Now's the time to shoot.
Right.
So made a nice ethical dispatch.
Nice.
But that was the hunter that did that.
That's
It was
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
what a great end of the story. You say that, getting the animal out. I've never had the worst time in my life of dragging an animal out. Now, he was by himself. I said, hey, you got a couple buddies you can call? He goes, I think it was a Friday or Saturday. And he said, no, they're all busy. They're at parties and whatnot. I'm like, okay. So you got a jet sled or something? No, I don't have anything.
Oh boy.
I'm like, okay. And it was cool. It wasn't super hot out. I'm like, all right. I said, well, I'm not going to leave you. And mind you, it's a heck of a hike to get up there. we finally make our way back down, get back to the truck. We call fishing game. I called the warden and told him what happened. Now we just got to get him out of the woods because you got to register the bear too. I grabbed the jet sled. I had my Garmin with Freddy's collar on it. I had that in my pack. My phone, I had it pinned on my phone. And then I brought my regular headlamp that I use for tracking. He had his phone. We get all the way up there right to where we had the bear. I didn't put any finger lights or anything, so it was daylight, and I never thought about, marking it for the dark. Right. I wasn't planning on going back up, to be honest. I was like, use my sled, we'll hook up at a later day.
Right.
But anyways, we finally made it up. Well, the lesson to be learned is don't just rely on the electronics, okay? And this is pivotal. And he was new to hunting, so I wanted to make this point clear. His phone died. My phone died. I'm like, what do we do now? Like, think about where we're at. We're on the side of a hill. We climbed here. We should just have to go down to get back down to the road. Do you remember looking at the map when you started hunting here? What does that road do? The road that we're parked in on, does that make a funky turn? Does it go along the side hill? What does that road do? Or does it just keep going downhill? Is it side hill? And I wasn't nervous because I had my Garmin still hooked up, but I wanted to make a point of not pulling that out. And he had a compass, and I said, let's do it by compass. Yeah. I said, we're not pulling out the Garmin. Like, the worst part was we had to get through this like 200 yards of blow down hell where you go down and you think you're getting on the back side of the stump, and now you got to drag the bear 30 yards around that stump to get around. It was horrible. Once we got back in the open hardwoods, it was clean sailing. Sure. But we got to a point where both of us were dehydrated. We were starting to cramp up. Emotions start taking over, okay? And I can't, and if you've never experienced it, we're super excited that we recovered this bear. Like, all our emotions just dumped because this was such a cool experience. I was super pumped because it was an awesome track. But now we're in this position of, we're in the middle of nowhere, essentially. I mean, we're on a mountain. There's roads around us. We're not lost. Yeah, you may get turned around, but you're not lost. Yeah. Right. We're going to find a road. We're going to find something. It was pivotal, to share those reactions with them, those emotions of, we got frustrated. We were not frustrated with each other, but frustrated at the situation. Well, I think the trail should be right here. No, I agree, but we're on a compass mark, and maybe we're just over a hump, and where you climbed up may not be just down. It might turn, and you might be climbing a hill. And that's exactly what happened. We got, bumped off a little bit. Well, where we came up, you go to the right a little bit, now there's a rise. So it plays with your mind. We climbed up, we should just be going down. Well, not necessarily the case because of the topography. So we used the compass. We got to a point where we were both cramped up, and he's like, let's just leave the bear here and I'll come back tomorrow. I'm like, we're not leaving without this bear. We're gonna drag it out. We're just, let's take a break. We don't have any more water. You're beat, I'm beat. Trust me, I'm super beat. But we're gonna get this bear out, and we're gonna enjoy it when we get back to the truck. And we just took a minute, we calmed down. It's like, what else do we do? It's plenty cool. The bear's gutted. He's not going to waste. We're not leaving him here. We just got to figure our way out. Pulled the compass out, took another bearing, and finally we made it out to the truck. And it was a lot longer than it probably should have, but what a great teaching moment.
I was going to say, I bet he learned a lot.
He did. And not just him, but me.
Yeah.
It made me really think, okay, I got to be better, hydrated. I can't just rely on my phone. Okay, yeah, I had an Ace. I had my Garmin in my back, but I didn't want to use that tool. Go back to the basics. Compass.
Did you ever tell him you had your Garmin in your pack?
He knew. Okay. Yeah. But it was faster not pulling it out. I didn't pull it out. Yeah, exactly. So, whether he knew I kept it with me or not, I honestly don't know. But it was the mere fact of being French and stubborn of, no, we're doing it by compass, and let's just do it this way, because I want to prove to you that you can do it. You can do it. Yeah. Let's not just take the easy way out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I could talk all evening.
That's fine.
Well,
we got a whole other topic we might want to do with you if you have time. So
I'm in.
We can close this one out and then go on to
let's do that.
One. Cool. Tyler, did you have any questions before we
I
wrap
have
up?
one more question.
Hit it, man.
Before we're done.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about building, your bond with the dogs, both Ted and Freddy, and how you guys work for each other or with each other, and you learned a lot. And you read your dog, and you know him well. How hard is it when you're on a call to make that decision of like, yeah, we're done, we're not going any further, knowing that like Zach's over here, like, no man, I smoked that thing, like he's dead, and you're like, dude, my dog, I don't think so, but like, how hard is that decision? Like, is it easy for you because you trust the dog so much, or is it in the back of your mind you're like, man, I don't want to piss this guy off? But
were you like an audience member to this interaction?
no, but you know what I'm saying, right? I feel like you probably at first you're probably like, no, I'm confident my dog's good, like this isn't. But then is there like this thing in the back of your head that's like, oh, I feel really bad because he's really confident and like I'm leaving, you know what I mean? Like, how hard is that?
It's I've lost a lot of sleep over some of these tracks.
Yeah.
I have these are my hunts also. I take a lot of pride in my dog and what we do. I've got my heart and soul goes into this tracking. I could pull out pictures from Ted from 10 years ago, and I probably couldn't I couldn't drive you to the spot, but if you parked me there, I could probably walk you to where we recovered that deer. These are part of me. It's very difficult to walk away because you don't want to leave a deer in the woods.
Right.
And if there's a tracker out there that says, well, I've never left a deer in the woods, and my dog is awesome, I'm the best. Well, they haven't tracked long enough.
Or they're only taking specific tracks.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you got gut, and not every gut shot is a recoverable deer.
Right.
Sure.
And in the beginning, a lot of people think, oh, gut, that's definite deer, and then when they work a gut shot, that's a high rear gut that the deer still has a lot of life left in it, and you physically can't catch up to it. Those are the tough ones because it's going to die.
Yeah.
Very difficult to walk away from a track. Am I second guessing myself? Am I reading the dog right? What happened to this? There's a handful every season that I kick myself and just wish I had a crystal ball of, when I get upstairs, I want to be like, all right, what happened to this? What happened to this one? I gotta know what happened.
Yeah.
It's and not every track is recoverable.
Right.
And has deer been left in the woods? Yep. I tell you another quick one, and I'm not afraid to tell this story, and I'm actually happy to tell it because there's a science behind it. There's no excuses. We can always have like our shots. How did you mess up? Well, the rest slipped, or I was jumpy, or
I was shaking.
Yeah,
right.
We can always come up with an excuse. Well, there's no excuse when it comes to to an explanation. Can we really define what happened? So this was a crossbow shot. Guy was in a tree stand, food plot, and guy had tracked for him in the past. Found a really nice buck for him in the past with a muzzleloader. Excuse me. Shot out of the tree stand and seen it dime it. Felt really comfortable with it. Real nice rack buck. And he watched it take 4 or 5 bounds out of the food plot into a real overgrown field that was, probably chest high grass. So if a deer's laying there, you're not going to scan and see it. He shoots just as it's starting to get dark, gets down, goes home, grabs his four-wheeler. Now he proceeds to drive his four-wheeler over to where the deer was standing to look for blood instead of walking. Takes his four-wheeler and drives over to where he last thought he saw the deer. Didn't see the deer. Now he starts riding around trying to look for the deer. So he puts on a bunch of mileage just back and forth looping around. He calls me that evening, said, hey, I shot a wicked nice buck. I feel as though I dimed it. I feel really good about it. Okay, yeah, I'll be there in the morning. Okay, this was real late. Better just let's first thing in the morning.
Right.
First thing in the morning we get there, and I said, okay, where were you? And he goes, I was in that tree stand. I said, all right, where was the deer standing? And it's brassica, so it's a real big broadleaf. You can slide an arrow in there, you'll never find it.
Right.
It's just it's leaf cover. So I'm like, all right, so get up in your stand. Where was the deer? And he goes, it's somewhere over there. Like, no, well, is it more to the right, more to the left? Yeah, it was in that general area. So he didn't have a good spot of where he shot. Now this deer takes these bounds. I said, did you find any blood? I didn't find anything. And all I see are these tire tracks from the four-wheeler. And I said, what direction did he go? And he went this direction. Well, Freddy really had nothing. He wasn't indicating anything. We get over to where he thinks the deer went, where he last seen it, and there's a deer run there. So Freddy takes the deer run, and I'm thinking, okay, so now I trust Freddy. Mind you, he was 1 year old, not even a year old.
Right.
He takes a run. So now I'm following him. I'm not seeing anything for sign whatsoever. We get out there a few hundred yards. I'm not seeing anything, and it's just not adding up. This is where the human factor comes in.
Right.
Like, hey, bud, you're not on it. I don't see anything. I'm not trusting you yet. Bring him back. Well, he takes a different run, and that one goes down to a swamp. And I'm like, well, maybe he got, because if it was a dime, he shouldn't have gone 400 yards.
Right.
Freddy should be on it. So maybe he got it in the guts, and maybe the deer turned, and this is the trail that Freddy's on. He's out in that swamp. Well, the guy lives right on the edge of that swamp, and I said, you got any kayak? He says, yeah, I got kayak. So put Freddy in the truck. We kayaked the swamp, like every inch of it. We walked the whole edge of this swamp twice around with Freddy. I put over 4 hours looking for this deer with this guy. I'm dumbfounded. Like, I got nothing for you. I feel horrible. I don't know what happened. I can't say that you missed. I can't say that you hit. Like, I got nothing. So I leave. He gives me a good tip. I felt horrible. He's like, no, you spent over 4 hours. So that weekend I'm up in Maine tracking with Susanna, and he calls and he says, I found my deer. And I'm like, awesome, still alive? And he goes, no. He says, dead. He goes, your stupid dog never found it. And I'm like, you're kidding me. He goes, where is he? He goes, he's just outside of the food plot. He goes, he's piled up. I'm in my tree stand hunting, because what am I going to do now? And turkey vulture landed in the field. I walked over, and he sent me a picture of it. Wicked nice send pointer. And I said, I apologize. I got nothing for you. I'm like, I'll give you your tip money back. That's not what it's about. He says, I don't know what you're doing with this dog, because the other dog found my deer, but this one, I don't think he's going to do anything for you. And it really sunk in. It really hit me hard, because I've got so much pride working with him. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm literally in tears. He's a grown man, and I'm in Susanna's car, and I got tears in my eyes. And she goes, what's going on? And so I tell her, and she goes, well, tell me the whole story again. What happened? And she goes, so he shot it the evening before, and he rode his four-wheeler up and down the place? I'm like, yeah, looking for it. She goes, and he didn't find it? No. She goes, okay. So then, what did you do? Well, I put Freddy there. And she goes, so you put your 1-year-old dog on a track that was, from the night before. She goes, aged all night long. She says, I wouldn't put my best dog on that. She goes, where was the deer hit? I says, he dined it. Took like 5 bounds, and that was it. She goes, there's no wound scent on that deer. She goes, when Freddy walked by that deer, that's just another deer. You pounded into him that don't track, or I don't want you to deal with a live deer. Yep. That deer had no wound scent. That thing was dead on the hoof as it took the few bounds. Now, yes, it expelled probably some wound scent when he first hit. Yep. And then those couple bounds, he was dead. He weren't putting out anything. Whatever he had, the guy dragged around in a crisscross pattern with his four-wheeler. Yep. There was nothing for that dog to get a hold of. And I'm like, whoa. Like, now it really, this is making sense.
There's a reason. Yeah.
There's a reason.
Yep.
I call him back, and the biggest heartache he had too was, what does he do with this deer? Because it's unconsumable. He doesn't want to put his tag on it. He'd like the rack. So part of our license, I report to Fish and Game. So I called the local warden. I explained everything, what happened, and the whole situation. And they were able to rectify it between the two of them. The guy was able to still hunt. Cool. He got the deer out of the food plot and whatnot. But that's one of those instances where, and I'm not afraid to admit it. Have we lost another deer, that we didn't recover, and it's dead out there? I honestly don't know. I wish there was a crystal ball.
Right.
I've gotten more phone calls and texts, of deer that we've tracked that they got pictures of them alive. Yep. And those just keep me going. We're doing.
That's cool, because it gives you like, okay, we were right.
Yeah. And I'll tell anybody I track for that, that we have no rectification of it. Yeah. please tell me. If you find this thing dead, I want to know. Oh God, here's another one. We tracked, I tracked for this gentleman before. I have it on the Garmin, have it on the phone. Freddy was only 1 year old. I believe it was a gut shot, and it was one of those gut shots that Freddy took me right by this brook, and there's a big boulder right there. I remember it, like it's a boulder that stands out. We walked right between the brook and then this boulder. It's like a little, not a lot of brush, fairly open. We walked by this, like Freddy took me here, and we walked by it. We went up on the side hill. That's the one I called that track too. And I said, I got nothing for you. There's no sign. I think your deer's still alive. He called me back the next day. He went back out there. He found the deer. The deer was right next to that boulder, in between the boulder and the brook. Now, normally I erase all my tracks on my Garmin, for the next one. I still had it on my Garmin. He goes, yeah, I don't know what you're doing with your dog. He said, yeah, I took a walk down by the brook and I found him. It was another, decent buck. And I went, wait a minute. I said, I'm coming over. So I drove all the way out there, left Freddy in the truck. I pulled out my Garmin and we walked the tracks, and I'm like, that deer was not here when we were here.
Oh.
And he says, no. I said, look, this is our tracks. We were right here, within 5 feet of this mark. We were here. This is where Freddy took us. I said, we did not walk by this deer. This deer ended up making a loop. And then he died, 10 hours later, 12 hours, whatever it was. It was like the next day or the day after, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so just because you track it, and that was another one that we pulled out, but I can't, we can't, he was too lively to dispatch. I'd never put eyes on him. Yep, and that deer did end up dying later on.
Yep.
But he wasn't, recoverable when we were tracking.
Right.
Yeah.
At least he was found.
Yeah, and I told him, and I'll tell everybody that when we track, let me know if you recover them, if you get a picture of them, please let me know, because I want to know. That's how we get better.
Right.
Yep. At least I can
also
sleep at night.
you can learn what sign you're seeing and what could be the outcome.
Yeah. And when to go a little bit further. Now, Lindsay up in Maine, she had one that was a gut shot. She went back 4 days in a row.
Wow.
It just blew my mind. Now it makes me, those girls in Maine are a whole other breed. A whole other breed. I can't keep up with them in the woods. I feel as though I'm in decent shape in the woods. I have so much respect for those girls, and truly honored to call them friends and mentors. I normally go up and track with them for a weekend or so during their youth weekend, and we have a blast. And I'm a sponge when I'm up there. I've learned so much just by following them. We have the same breed, same bloodline.
Nice.
Going on, yeah.
Nice.
So it's good. It's tough because now Freddy's a little bit more advanced. I want to spend more time with him, here in New Hampshire. But hopefully I'll get a chance to.
I heard that one.
Yeah,
I watched it out the window.
I heard the lightning first, where it clicked on my headphones.
Did he really? Yeah.
It was only right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's just another one that you get a whole pile of these. We use a tracker group, so there's a pile of us that get together, handful of us, and we just had dinner 2 weeks ago up in Maine.
Nice.
And it was tracking stories all afternoon. Yeah.
Cool.
There's a few of us in New Hampshire. We normally meet up in Lincoln, and we'll sit at the burger place and not have one sip of booze and be there all afternoon.
Nice.
It's good. Yeah. The more tracking stories you hear, the more you pick up on certain things.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yep.
Learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Definitely. That's what this is all about at the end of the day. Like, you don't just go out on your own and make it all happen. You got to learn from someone or learn from something.
Right.
Whether you're reading it, you're watching it, you're talking to friends, whatever. And that's kind of what led us to start this whole thing, was Buckley being brand new. And we were like, how do we teach and do all this? And then we decided to start documenting it, and that's kind of where...
Just keep it documented along the way and have as fun low key kind of thing that we do. And
I love that program, that part of it for sure. Yeah, because I didn't come up with this stuff. I mean, my daughter came up with taking a picture of the hit site.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of cool.
Which is a really cool idea.
It
Actually.
is.
That nobody thinks about.
I would have never
I
thought
wouldn't
of
take
it.
it. I wouldn't even think
I
to
mean,
take
the
a
first
picture.
thing you do after you shoot is you text
Text
people.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
wait
Take a
minute,
video
wait
of yourself. Yep.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So anytime I can pick up a piece of information or that aha moment of, hey, this might help, like the laser.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
not going to be the last time I use that.
And it's remarkable because like I was standing on the ground and you were up in the tree stand shining the laser down at me. So when I'm sitting there, I can see all the ones that are close and all the ones that are far.
Okay.
And like it was a totally different perspective too, to be in the deer's eye view, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that was wild to experience that, and then to realize like there's no way you could see those from the stand. There's no way. Like you can take that shot all day long and think that it was a clean shot, but then you put that laser on it and it's not a clean shot.
Yeah, it's all
really
over the
isn't.
place.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool tool. That was a good little eye opener to us of like, oh, well, there you go. And the other thing too is the ground there was so spongy. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But it was all like there was no kick up from where that sabot went in, like anywhere. We were looking all over like where is the entrance for, like, it's got to be in this deer because there's nothing in the ground.
Right.
But it's such a spongy ground that it could have been anywhere,
Yeah.
So it and wherever it deflected to is not where we were looking at the very least, if not the fact that the ground just wasn't, showing it. But yet, where my buddy who was hunting watched that deer go, Freddy brought you right to that spot and went right into that little thicket there and everything too. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get another blast here in a second. Yeah.
I saw that one.
Your door just shook. The glass went like this.
I watched that one too, and I was like, that one was even closer.
1,000.
Cool.
Well, what a great afternoon.
Yeah,
This
awesome.
is fun.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah.
You want to talk about bears next?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, we'll take a break and then we'll get to bears.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode.